Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name's Jimmy, and I used to think I had a solid read on people. I wasn't naive. I didn't fall for sweet talk or get swept up in fairy tales. But then I met Sabrina. We were introduced at a charity event in Houston. She was smart, well-spoken, and had this way of looking at you like she already knew what you were about. We talked for over an hour that night. By the end of it, I was already picturing what she'd look like sitting across from me at breakfast. 6 months in, we moved in together. By month 10, I was buying a ring. Everyone said it was fast, but when something feels steady, you don't second-guess it. Sabrina was funny, driven, and sharp when it counted. She wasn't over-the-top romantic, but when she said something mattered to her, I believed her. We had our share of fights, sure. Nothing that made me think twice about our future, though. And when I proposed on a cold November night by the lake, she said yes before I could even finish my sentence. Planning the wedding felt like building something real. We kept it small, about 60 guests. My brother Jonathan was my best man. Sabrina handled the venue and decor. I covered the music and food. We laughed through cake tastings, fought over flower colors, and made up over late-night takeout and old movies we'd both seen a dozen times. I thought we were good. There was just one thing I noticed but didn't press. A guy named Brad had popped up in her conversations a few times. A friend from her old job, apparently. The first time she mentioned him, she called him annoying. The second time, she laughed about how dramatic he was. The third time, I asked, "So is Brad coming to the wedding?" She said, "No, God, no. That ship sank years ago." I didn't push. Didn't want to be that guy. Didn't realize I should have been. The weird thing started 2 weeks before the wedding. We were at a friend's house. Casual backyard thing. People drinking, grilling, telling old college stories. Sabrina disappeared for about 20 minutes. Said she had to take a call from the caterer. I didn't think much of it until later, when I went inside to grab another beer. She wasn't on the phone. She was sitting in the den, texting. The screen lit up. It was Brad. When she noticed me, she turned the screen off quick. I said, "Caterer got you locked into a group chat?" She smiled. Too quick. "No, that was just my friend Brad. He asked me something dumb about wedding gifts. It's nothing." I didn't say anything back, but I remembered the way she always downplayed him. Annoying, dramatic, supposedly long gone. That night, I brought it up again. "Didn't you say Brad wasn't coming to the wedding?" "Yeah," she said, brushing her hair back like it annoyed her. "He's not. He just likes to run his mouth, that's all. Ignore him." "Okay," I said. "So why is he asking about gifts?" She paused. "He heard about the wedding from someone else. He's just trying to stir stuff up." I let it go, not because I believed her completely, but because we were too close to the day to start pulling threads. The next day, I was in the garage, working on a shelf I'd been meaning to fix. But my mind kept circling back to it. The texts, the way she shut off her phone, how casually she brushed it off. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just some guy from her past popping up. That night, when Sabrina was asleep, I saw another message come in on her phone. From Brad. Can't believe it's really happening. No emoji, no context, just that. Sent at 12:14 a.m. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't go through the rest of her phone. I wanted to, but I didn't. I don't like catching people in the dark. If I'm going to confront something, I want to look them in the eye. The next morning, I made coffee, sat at the table, waited. She walked into the kitchen wearing my old t-shirt like everything was normal. I said, "What did Brad mean when he said, 'Can't believe it's really happening'?" She froze for just a second. "Oh, that?" she said casually, grabbing a mug. "He's just being stupid. He thinks I'm making a mistake getting married. He always says stuff like that." I leaned forward. "Why does he think that?" She sighed, like I was exhausting her. "Because he used to have a thing for me, Jimmy. Ages ago. He's immature. I've told you that." I stared at her. "You sure you're done with that chapter?" She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Absolutely." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the way she said it felt rehearsed, like it wasn't the first time she had to sell that line. I didn't argue. I just nodded. 3 days before the wedding, Jonathan pulled me aside while we were setting up chairs at the rehearsal dinner venue. "You seen this?" he asked, handing me his phone. It was a screen recording of an Instagram story. Sabrina, sitting in the passenger seat of a car, A man's voice behind the camera, laughing. She looked into the lens and said, "Can't believe this idiot still makes me laugh." Then she threw up a middle finger toward him, smirked, and added, "See you Saturday." I handed the phone back. I hadn't seen it. She must have hidden the story from me, but she didn't block Jonathan. Big mistake. "Who's the guy?" I asked, even though I already had a guess. Jonathan didn't hesitate. "Brad." His profile pic popped up when she tagged him last week. I recognized the name. I clicked. Voice matches. It's him. I felt something drop in my gut. Slow. Final. She had told me he wasn't coming. She had told me that chapter was closed. I wasn't mad because of the video. I was mad because she didn't even try to hide it well. "Still want to go through with this?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The day of the wedding, I woke up before the sun. Sabrina was already gone. She'd texted me saying she was heading to her friend Kara's place to get ready with the bridesmaids. "See you at the altar." That's all it said. I stared at it for a minute, then put my phone down and got up. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie over and over again. My hands felt steady, but my chest, that was a different story. Jonathan walked into the room, clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Last chance to ghost," he said, half joking. I smirked. "You'd love that." But I knew what he meant. The look in his eyes said it all. We were both wondering if I was walking into a wedding or a wake. The venue was beautiful, clean, crisp, nothing overdone, about 60 people, close friends, family, no drama. At least, not yet. The ceremony started right on time. I stood at the front, watching the doors, and then she came in. Sabrina looked incredible, elegant, calm. She walked down the aisle like she had nothing to hide, but I couldn't shake the image of that Instagram story, or Brad's voice in the background. She reached the altar, took my hands in hers. The officiant smiled and started the usual script. Then, mid-sentence, Sabrina cut him off. "Wait," she said, turning toward the guests, reaching for the mic. I froze. "Before we say our vows," she said, smiling wide, "I just want to give a shout-out to someone who's been such a big part of my life." She scanned the room. "Brad, you're ridiculous. You've always been there for me, even when you shouldn't have been." She had actually brought her ex to our wedding, sat him in the crowd, built a whole moment around him like it was cute, like I was supposed to clap along. People chuckled nervously. Someone clapped once. It died fast. I stared at her. She looked at me and winked. "I'm kidding," she said, laughing. "Relax, Jimmy. It's a joke." The crowd tried to recover. I didn't. My jaw tightened. I looked at Jonathan. He was already shaking his head. Sabrina leaned in and whispered, "Come on, lighten up." I didn't say a word, but I knew, right then, exactly what I was going to do next. I looked at her for maybe 3 full seconds, just enough for the smile to fade from her face. The guests were shifting, unsure whether to laugh again or stay quiet. The officiant looked frozen, like he wanted someone to tell him this was part of the plan. I leaned into the mic. "Well," I said, voice steady, "since we're doing surprises." Everyone turned to me. I let the pause hang, felt the weight of it settle over the whole room. "I've got one too," I said, still looking at the guests. Then I turned to Sabrina, met her eyes. "I'm not marrying you." There was a gasp. Not dramatic, not movie style, just one sharp inhale, followed by silence. Sabrina blinked. "Jimmy, what?" I handed the mic back to the officiant and stepped down from the altar. Sabrina reached out. "Hold on, are you serious?" I didn't answer. I walked past the rows of guests, past my mother with her hands over her mouth, past Sabrina's cousin whispering, "What is happening?" Jonathan was already moving. He caught up to me before the doors. "You good?" he asked. "I'm good," I said. "Let's go." Behind me, I heard Sabrina call out, "Jimmy!" "Come on." It was a joke. "Are you really doing this?" I stopped for half a second, turned just enough to say, "You don't joke like that at your own wedding, not if you respect the person standing next to you." Her face changed then. Panic. Then something colder. "Unbelievable," she snapped. "You're humiliating me." "No," I said. "You did that yourself." I walked out the front doors and didn't look back. Outside, the sun was blinding. My chest felt like it was finally exhaling after holding everything in for too long. Jonathan followed in silence. We didn't say anything until we reached the car. Then he muttered, "Could have been a lifetime of that. You did the right thing." I nodded, started the engine, and drove. By the time I got back to my house, my phone had already blown up. 6 missed calls from Sabrina, 4 from her mom, a few texts from mutual friends, mostly confused. Dude, what happened? Tell me this is a joke. Then Sabrina again. Jimmy, answer me, please. It was a prank. You're seriously this sensitive? You just made a fool out of me. That part made me laugh. I didn't respond. An hour later, Jonathan showed up with a six-pack and that same deadpan look he always has when he knows I need backup but won't ask for it. He sat down, cracked a beer, and said, So, you done with her for good? I nodded. I was done the second she grabbed that mic. I told him about the messages, the call, the late-night text from Brad. He raised an eyebrow. You think they were? Don't need to think, I said, pulling up Sabrina's Instagram. I scrolled back through her posts, the likes, the comments. Brad's name kept showing up, always subtle, emojis, inside jokes. One post from 2 months ago, a picture of her at brunch. Brad's comment, Still can't believe I let this one go. Sabrina replied, Too bad, huh? Jonathan just shook his head. She kept him around. Like a spare tire, I said. What hit hardest wasn't the flirting or the shady messages. It was realizing she'd been getting comfortable crossing lines for months, and I'd been too focused on being the good fiancé to call it out. That night, I blocked her number, deleted the shared wedding folder off my drive, took down every framed photo of us off the wall. By midnight, I was sitting alone in the quiet, the house still half decorated with wedding prep stuff we never got to use. I didn't feel sad, just relieved, and a little angry with myself for almost tying my whole life to someone who thought love was something you could laugh at. The next morning, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. I didn't want any more surprises, not from her, not from anyone tied to her. Then I started packing her things, quiet, methodical. Everything she'd left at the house, clothes, toiletries, books, went into boxes. I planned to send them to her parents' place, let them deal with it. Around mid-morning, I got a knock on the door. I opened it to find Kara, Sabrina's best friend and bridesmaid, standing there with a small box in her hands and a nervous smile. Don't worry, she said. I'm not here to change your mind. I stepped aside, let her in. She set the box on the counter. Some of your stuff from the venue, ties, cufflinks, oh, and her vows. I raised an eyebrow. Kara hesitated. She never wrote them down until the night before. I found them this morning. Figured you had a right to see what she was going to say. I opened the folded paper, read the first few lines, closed it. Doesn't matter now, I said. Kara nodded. She's a mess. Keeps saying she didn't mean to hurt you, that it was supposed to be funny. It wasn't, I said. Kara gave a half shrug. She was always chasing drama. You kept her grounded, and I think she hated that more than she realized. Before she left, she paused at the door. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. That afternoon, Sabrina sent one last message, this time from a new number. Long paragraph, full of half apologies and justifications. She ended it with, If you ever change your mind, you know where to find me. I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it without replying. Later that week, I grabbed drinks with Jonathan. We didn't talk much about the wedding, just sat, had a few rounds, and let the silence do most of the work. That night, I drove past the venue one last time. Empty now, cleaned up, no chairs, no music, just a quiet, open space. And I felt done. Not bitter, not broken, just clear. A few weeks passed. The texts stopped. The calls stopped. Whatever Sabrina needed to say, she'd said it, or realized I wasn't going to listen anymore. Life went quiet again. Not empty, just clear. The kind of silence that lets you rebuild without all the static. I kept my circle tight, saw friends, hit the gym harder, took a few weekend trips by myself, just to reset. No explanations, no one to answer to. And in that quiet, I kept thinking, what if I hadn't walked? What if I just stood there, smiled through it, played along? I'd probably be married to someone who laughs when I bleed. That sounds harsh, but it's true. See, here's what I learned from all this. And it's not complicated. If someone humiliates you and expects you to smile through it, that's not love. That's control. Sabrina didn't pull that stunt because she thought it was funny. She did it to test how much she could get away with, to see if I'd flinch, to see if I'd still be standing there when the dust settled, pretending it was fine. People like that don't want a partner. They want a stage, and you're just part of the act. But here's the thing. Respect isn't optional. You can't build something real with someone who thinks your pride is disposable. Love without respect is performance, and marriage without respect is prison. So no, I don't regret walking out. I didn't lose anything that day. I got my future back. And the next time I stand at an altar, it'll be next to someone who knows the difference between a joke and a jab, and who understands that the moment you pick each other, you protect that moment with everything you've got. Not play games with it, not test it, not throw it away to see what happens. That's the line, and I'm never crossing back. Thank you for watching.